Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Here are the big stories we're tracking in politics and in the polity. For the second time, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party recognizes its former national youth leader, Sunday Ude Okoye, as incumbent national secretary, citing appeal court judgment as basis. Controversial tax reform bills pass its second reading in the green chambers of the House of Representatives, now set for public hearing. And the Nigerian police force refutes reports on missing firearms, says unaccounted for guns happened before the tenure of the current IGP, dating back to 2019. Welcome to your all-access pass to politics at midday and what's going on in the polity across the country. Let's get things started with what appears to be some level of short-term closure over the national secretary position of the People's Democratic Party, as a National Working Committee has, for the second time, recognized, backed and affirmed Mr. Sunday Ude Okoye as its national secretary over embattled Sam Anyanwu, citing appeal court declarative judgment in favor of Mr. Ude Okoye. In a statement by the PDP National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, the NWC says it is bound by the judgment of the Court of Appeal on the matter. The opposition party disclosed that it will send its resolution affirming Ude Okoye as the PDP National Secretary to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and other relevant bodies for recognition in accordance with the Court of Appeal's judgment. The case is now before the Supreme Court for determination. In the meantime, the controversial tax reform bills have scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The bills were largely supported by lawmakers, though there were concerns about some challenges that may arise or occur and perceived contradictions with the Constitution. Issues around value-added tax, derivation, and multiple taxation also were raised on the floor. Our National Assembly correspondent, Terry Kumi, has a report.
It is a big day in the House of Representatives. This explains the full House. The House has dedicated the day solely to revive the conversation on what could be described as perhaps the most popular bills in the 10th National Assembly, the 4 tax reform bills scheduled for second reading.
A near perfect document.
The debate begins with lawmakers largely speaking in support of the bills.
I saw it from where I came from as a subtle restructuring of this great nation. Also, a kind of a handshake across the Niger to our people.
Nobody knew that we will ever pass this bill in this House to go for second reading. But today, from what I've heard so far from our colleagues, I believe automatically this bill has gone for second reading.
There is need for us to harmonize the various tax bills that we have in this country. There is no denying the fact that most of the bills that deals with our taxes in this country are outdated.
No to the phasing out of relevant agencies of government that are popular and have also have a lot to deliver to the expectation of the people. Naseni, for instance, the TED Fund, for instance, the Speaker, the Leader of the House, I quote you, Nida, for instance, I quote my leader for being so sagacious to say that these agencies will not be defaced. They will remain to continue to serve our people.
However, there are some concerns.
There is preponderance of ambiguity in this act because of the absence of interpretation clause. The interpretation clause is not robust, did not address the issue of derivation. What is derivation in this act?
The bills also seek to amend over 40 acts which have not been placed before us. Those 40 acts should be placed before us so that we compare against those bills.
I like to also advise that there could be a digitization of audited accounts in the new bill, which would stop the rampant or incessant frivolous issuance of account statements, audited accounts by companies. I also want to advise against executive issuance of exemption orders.
This 5% of oil sector contribution to the GDP is what constitutes 60% of funds or revenue to budgets. And again, it contributes 90% of your foreign exchange. Therefore, we have to do a lot to ramp up crude production, and that is what Section 85 seeks to.
All 4 tax reform bills are eventually passed through second reading.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The debate on the floor still suggests that there is still so much work to be done on issues like derivation, increase in value-added tax, and certain provisions that lawmakers fear could run in conflict with the Constitution. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And away from the floor of the House of Representatives, let's also tell you that the Nigerian Police Force says it is surprised regarding the recent report alleging that over 3,000 arms are missing from the Nigerian police force, as the force has insisted that the allegations are misleading and inaccurate. It says the allegation stems from an assessment of the report by the police of the Auditor General of the Federation, which dates back to 2019, likely reflecting records compiled prior to the current Inspector General of Police's tenure. The police spokesperson, Muyo Adejobi, in a statement, explains that in a report, according to issue 3B sub 3, it is stated that 3,907 arms were unaccounted for and not missing as speculated in the news. The statement adds that it is important to acknowledge the challenges faced by the police during periods of civil unrest, during which several police officers were killed and their arms carted away, and some attacks and looting of police facilities and armories, resulting in a loss of arms. But every effort has been made to account for the arms that were taken, while many of them have been recovered back to the arms holding of the force at the moment. Now, the statement further adds that when the auditors conducted his visit to the police armories, they may not find all arms present at the time due to the issuance of weapons to personnel for operational purposes, many spanning into months depending on the nature of the operation. And just before I bring in my guests, I can tell you that the National Coordinator of the National Counterterrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor, Major General Adamu Laka, says violent extremism remains one of the most complex challenges that threatens Nigeria's national security. Mr. Laka said this in Abuja at a workshop and validation meeting on preventing and countering violent extremism and guidelines on strategic communication plan.
Preventing and countering violent extremism is not solely a security issue, but also a governance, development, and social cohesion issue. Hence, it requires a multifaceted, multi-stakeholder, and multidimensional approach. Our success depends on the coordination of efforts, synergy of policies, and harmonization of strategies at all levels. At the end of this workshop, we expect to have a clear roadmap for the localization of the policy framework, validated preventing and countering violent extremism guidelines, and an endorsed strategic plan, all of which will serve as blueprint for future implementation.
And so that's the basis of our conversation. Let's talk about security. We'll be joined in the program by the Managing Director, Deep Breeze Protection Services, and the security consultant, Mr. Dixon Osaje, joining us from Abuja studio. Mr. Osaje, good to see you, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me, Geoffrey. Good afternoon.
Okay, let's begin with what people in the security sector, I don't know whether there are different parameters to measure success, but if you're speaking to lay people like us who are not in the military, who've never served, how do you assess success in terms of winning the war against terrorism and extremism and all the things we see, especially in the northern part of the country, before we come down south?
a systematic question. Success can be defined in a state of peace. When localities and communities living in a state of fear, success has been defeated. When states and country suffers from societal risk, success has been defeated. So we want to talk about counterterrorism success. That simply implies that the situation must be brought to a state of positive peace. Positive peace in the sense that you and I can move around without being intimidated, without being coerced, or without being harassed by these criminal activities, by these criminal elements. So that is another area. Like start about peace in 1829, during the policing reforms, it stated very clearly that the absence of crime best proof the effectiveness of policing. But we cannot live in a state whereby crime can be totally eliminated. We will live with crime to the end of eternity, Geoffrey. But the whole essence of security management or crime prevention is to mitigate the rate of terrorism, is to mitigate the spate of criminal activities, violent crime, political crime, societal crime, and also ensure that we bring this situation to an acceptable perception. So for me, our security agents from the East, West, South, and North, they're putting in their efforts, but they must understand one fact, that the killing of terrorism is not a sign of victory. The killing of criminal activity, criminal guys is not a sign of victory, because most times I read on our national dailies how our security agents celebrate victory, or write on papers how 2, 3, 5, 20, 100 terrorists have been killed. That is not a sign of victory. When you take them out, they recruit. When you take them out, they recruit. So that is why you need to go back to the drawing board and understand your employment methodology, so that your effort does not be in vain. When we have our security officers and men carrying out their activities day in, day out, by day, by noon, by night, and these criminal elements are also countering the effort of our security agent, that tells you that they are laboring in vain. So our security officers and agencies must not labor in vain. They must put in strategies in place to ensure that when they carry out most of these action activities against these criminal elements, they go for victory, they go for defeat, and they go to decimate these guys once and for all. So for me, if I want to assess the success of our security agent, I would say they are doing so well, but are we living in a state of peace in some part of the country? The answer is no. So they need to bring the situation to a state of positive peace, so that we will believe and rate them 100 over 100.
There are different ways they describe this war. Asymmetric war, they say non-kinetic and kinetic approach to achieve what we've achieved in Birnin Gwari, I think somewhere in Kaduna State. But we did have a conversation, I think, with the Director of Defense Operations a few days ago, and he talked about 800 or so, less than 1,000 ex-Boko Haram members undergoing de-radicalization. And we're quite curious to know how effective this has been, because some people still suspect that, can we really de-radicalize people that have been driven by ideologies for a very long time? Is that a possibility? How can that be achieved? You will not blame Nigerians for having that doubt in their mind, just a reassurance from your own expertise.
Fantastic question, Geoffrey. There is an argument for, an argument against the pardoning of most of these criminal elements, and which was classified under Operation Safe Haven, which was established during the leadership of our former president, Muhammadu Buhari. And now the argument for is that most of these guys, they want to, align this pardoning with the issue of the Niger Delta. And that's why we need to be very sensitive when it comes to pardoning of terrorist group. We need to understand the underlying factors. What's led to the insurgency? What led to their aggression against the Nigerian state? What led to their aggression against the Nigerian people? That is number one. Then number two, in the Niger Delta, what also led to their aggression? Why did they pick arms and ammunition? There's a clear difference, because when Boko Haram came on board, their objective is to wipe out some religious people, and believing that Western education is a sin. The Niger Delta aspect, they believe that they've been, they've been cheated in the area of resource control. So these are clear difference. Now, when we come back to the pardoning of terrorist group, we need to understand that when you pardon terrorist group, then the victims have been denied of justice. That is where retribution and restorative justice comes to play. Now, who are the guys qualified for pardoning? If you want to pardon terrorist group, you need to assess the situation. How did they get into terrorism? Were they coerced into terrorist group? Because we've seen sometimes most of these criminal elements, the Boko Haram, the ISWAP, when they go into the community, they coerce some, vulnerable Nigerians and, force them into terrorism. When you carry out an assessment and discover that we have a lot of child soldiers, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old guys who were coerced by these criminal elements in fighting against the Nigerian state. I, Dixon Osagie, I will understand that, okay, these guys, they are due for pardon because they were being coerced. They were not even, they've not even actualized the state of adulthood. So when you want to pardon these guys, you need to check the reason why they were coerced. And if you ascertain the reason why they were coerced, they will can't be looking at pardoning. But when you look at grown-up men, people who should be protecting the territorial integrity of this country, supporting this effort of our security agents, supporting the government of this great country to move Nigeria forward, then you see them going into terrorism, and at the end of the day, you find them in the camp of Operation Safe Haven. I don't know the metrics in which these guys were being pardoned, but for me, I think that Operation Safe Haven should be reassessed. Let us understand the people that are being pardoned. And if we keep on pardoning these guys, as a country, do we have a national intelligence database that can keep their record to ensure that most of these guys that are pardoned do not reoffend? I can tell you for free, Geoffrey, that some of them have been reoffending the states.
All right, Mr. Osagie, thank God you landed on that. Let's just put it. So this, say, a village in Beriningware, a village in somewhere in Zamfara, you could clearly see that this person was responsible for the deaths of 10, 20, 50 persons within that community. And then all of a sudden, the person said he's repenting or whatever, and then the military comes or the people in charge comes to say, is de-radicalized? And then over the period of maybe a year or two, and then they bring the person back to that particular community. Put on record, there's a compound there who somebody died because of that particular individual, who is now, quote unquote, forced, or the situation has made it that he has to live with this individual. How should people welcome them? How should people relate with them? How do we manage that kind of mutual suspicion across board?
Geoffrey, I cannot give you an advisory on how to manage these guys or an advisory on how people should manage these people. The only advice I will give is that they must face the judicial system. They must face punishment, and they must face the crime. They must go for it, because if we want to build a country, we must be very careful in the area of pardoning of criminal elements. You are telling me that those who kill our officers and men, those who kill our brothers and sisters, those who destroy our communities, come on board and say they be repented. This is not a church. This is not a place for forgiveness. We are talking about the law. We are talking about the rule of law. Because if you keep on pardoning these guys, what happens is that terrorism will keep on expanding, because most of these guys will just come on board and establish, and just of recent, we have a new terrorist group classified as Lakurawa or Lakarua something, and they came on board. They've assessed our system. They believe that, hey, let's just come and destabilize the Nigerian state, and maybe in 2-3 years, we can push out for pardon. We can say, oh, we've repented. For me, anyone who is engaged in pardon should never, ever be pardoned. Anyone who is engaged in terrorism should never, ever be pardoned. He must face our judicial system. It must face the law, because the whole essence of punishment is to ensure that these people that commit crime, they are being punished for the crime, so that it will send, a deterrence measures to the community, to the world, or to the people of this country, that Nigeria is not a place whereby we condone crime and allow people who kill our brothers and sisters to be forgiven. Because if you forgive them, what will happen to the victims? That tells you the victims have been denied justice. The victims have been abused, and that's why most of these victims, when they see that the Nigerian state keeps on pardoning the terrorists that killed their father, that killed their mother, their brothers and sisters, some of them tends to go into the place of the way of crime, and they believe that going into crime, well, is a success to them. So for me, we must draw the line between pardon and the judicial system, because if you want to tell us that you will keep on pardoning these guys, then why am I a good guy? Why am I a nice man? Why am I here? I shouldn't be here. Because if we don't punish people who commit crime, I tell you, we are putting this country in a terrible state. So it's not good for us. Let's face the law.
So let's walk that delicate balance. There's a person who took up arms against the state. If he has his way, he will kill our president, destroy all of us. There's that person.
Yes.
There's another person who, for whatever circumstance, found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and is brought into this space, and is doing this under duress. How can we separate both so that we don't punish the wrong set of people? The law is quite clear on terrorism, so we can't argue about that.
Crime is crime. If you are coerced into crime, you are a victim. If you get into crime, if you are coerced into crime, you are a criminal. If you get into crime, you are a criminal. But for me, I think that we should also try to assess the safe haven, like I rightly said. So that, like, going by your question, if, for example, 16, 13, 12 years old child who is being coerced into criminal activities, well, the government can say, okay, let's just try and rehabilitate this guy. Let's just try and reintegrate this guy back into the society, because we understand the underlying factors that brought him into this act of terrorism. But not for a grown-up man like me. Are you telling me if I pick up arms and raise an insurrection against the Nigerian state in the next 2 years, and I come on board and say that I was coerced or I was captured into this crime? Nigeria is a very big space. If you are coerced into criminal activities, are you telling me there is no space for you to run? Is it that you are under a concentric cycle that you cannot move away from that criminal activities? But we should also start looking at conditional pardon, even if we want to tread on the path of pardon. If we must pardon these criminal guys, or on the guise of Operation Safe Haven, then let's look at, hey, we're going to give you a pardon in an exchange for intelligence sharing. Tell us who are the people behind this sponsorship. Tell us who are the guys, who are the commanders of these people, because we need to start infiltrating into the enemy's camp to understand how they operate, who are their sponsors, and where they are, where they're going, and their objective, so that we'll be able to demoralize and destabilize their operational ability. So for me, Geoffrey, I tell you, it's a very sensitive war, and we must tread with caution so that people don't, delve into crime. Because when they see criminal elements being pardoned, viewing them on national television, 1 or 2 persons will say, hey, let's go into crime, we'll gain pardon. But if you pardon one, pardon all. Don't pardon one and punish another. That's my point.
Okay, let's move away from the issue of terrorism. Let's come to a bit of something close to the civic space. And one of the things, I thought I'm going to have a conversation with a certain of the force, but one of the things that sometimes I see that happens with the Nigerian police force, some of the great work they are doing, being destroyed by some of the mischievous elements. And sometimes I think some of the police officers, when I look at them, it's almost like I should walk to them and say, you're the police, you're not the military, you're not the armed forces, you're policemen. It means 2 different things. Now, the IGP had said the other day, henceforth, tactical unit must be responsible. In fact, if you're in the tactical unit of the Nigerian police force, if you're not wearing uniforms, you should not be given a gun. That same day in this Lagos, I drove out from this office. On my way towards the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, I saw tactical unit men. Some were on uniform, some were not. That same day. And these things affect the image of the police in general at the end of the day. How can, in your view and in your books, the activities of the police help in building better relationship between men in arms and the civilians? Because sometimes this action is part of the responsibility that we see in the force by this mischievous element that destroys all the good work they do.
Geoffrey, excellent. The Nigerian police, we must give it to them, because for me, I strongly believe these guys are doing very, very well. And for a period of time now, Geoffrey, we've seen that the Nigerian police are trying to manage their image. That is why most times we must see perception management as very effective, because most motivational speakers will want to say, don't mind what people are saying about you. That's wrong. We must mind what people are saying about our security agent. That is perception management. Now, going by your question, the IGP a few days ago gave an order, and this order must be obeyed. For me, if this order is not obeyed, that tells you there's an issue with command. And for me, I have identified 2 major problems within the Nigerian police. That is command negligence and fire discipline. Now, let's address the issue of the IGP. He has said, no person or no officer must be seen with arms and ammunition. You know, most of these armed robbers we see on our highways, sometimes, captured or kidnap our people on the disguise of being police officers. How do you know who's a police officer? If I put on a breast jacket and write police and carry arms and ammunition, does not justify me as a police officer. So the Nigerian policing system must understand that this is a societal risk, because they must ensure that they are well dressed from head to toe. Make sure you carry out the order of the IGP. If you don't carry out the order of the IGP, then the IGP must bring to book the Commissioner of Police, the Deputy, the Divisional Police Officers, and ensure that they are punished. You must hold leaders accountable. The DPOs, we have thousands of DPOs within this country, and these guys are directly reporting to the DPOs. When you hold all the Divisional Police Officers accountable for not upholding the order of the Inspector General of Police, everybody will sit up, because before your men were discharged from the police station, they must be briefed. And when they come back, you debrief them. So let them dress properly so that Nigerians will know who are the criminals and who are the police officers. Then, talking about those carrying arms, I tell you for free that as we have intelligence agencies, the Nigerian police have their own intelligence department. Yes, these guys, they are the ones that are liable or authorized by law of the policing system to go out for intelligence gathering, even with their own concealable weapons. That tells you that, okay, they are out for intelligence agency. If you are not in the intelligence department, you are not supposed to be seen in the public space with arms and ammunition on mufti or on a civilian apparel. That is wrong and that is not good. Okay. Then on the area of command, on the area of fire discipline, Geoffrey, we've also identified that sometimes we see people, pulling the trigger at any provocation, thereby damaging the integrity and good work of the Nigerian police. I'm so happy I've read on papers some disciplinary measures meted out to this criminal, most of these irresponsible officers by the IGP. So the police system, the IGP must ensure that the discipline, they must maintain the momentum, the disciplinary momentum, so that those who brutalize the image of the police are brought to book, so that the effort of our police officers and men should not be in vain. Absolutely, well said, because I was just worried. I said, if I had a dash cam, I think I should just go and get a dash cam, so that, because if you bring out to snap them, that's another altercation in itself. And we've also told, I was speaking to Muyiwa Adejobi, the first PRO, I said, when are we going to get policemen wearing their body cams? We should budget for it. It's an essential, it protects the policeman, protects all of us as well, so that some of these shenanigans can be reported. Most thank you so much, Dixon Osaje, MD, Debris Protection Services, and a security consultant. Thank you for coming on the program. Thank you. Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Channels Television. Thank you. All right, just before we go, the immediate past acting chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Ebonyi State, Ifeanyi Nwore, has now defected to the ruling All Progressives Congress. Nwore, alongside hundreds of his supporters, were welcomed to the APC at the Civic Center in Ezza, South Local Government Area in Ebonyi State. He declared his support to Governor Francis Nwiru-led administration, adding that his intention of joining the APC was because of people-oriented policies of the party. And the state APC chairman, Stanley Okori-Emega, while welcoming the defectors, called for continued support to the government of the APC, saying that crisis and bitterness does not do anyone any good.
We can see that the governor of Ebonyi State meant well for the state. So our defection is to join His Excellency the governor of the state in building the state. We are Ebonyi State. We cannot travel elsewhere till tomorrow. We were born here, we are dying here. So the only reason we can build a better Ebonyi is supporting the government in power. And it's the major reason why I joined the party.
I'm happy that people are joining my party. As the chairman, I am the first beneficiary. So why will I be worried that I am not making profit from the business I'm doing? So I am happy, I'm fine. I want many more of them. Whatever it will cost me, even going to their places. I travel from here to Lagos to go and meet some of them individually to talk sense into them. It's all about ideas and understanding. They have seen the good things, the blueprint of the party, and how the governor is executing it. So no justifiable reason not to join the party. They also have ideas to give. As such, since building of a state is not a one-man show, it's not something that an idea can accomplish. It's a collective ideas. So as such, they have something they have also to inject into the party to make the party move from where it is to another level.
And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.